As we've watched foldable devices take off and really nail down the necessary tech, is it fair to wonder if Apple is missing out by not having their own foldable device? ZDNet's Jason Cipriani thinks so. Jason, let's just start with the obvious. Everyone enjoys having a bigger device. Um, a foldable iPhone would give you that larger screen along with some more innovation.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think that's the biggest, like you said, most obvious part of a foldable device, right? Is you have a screen on the front, and depending on the design, let's use Microsoft's Duo 2 or Samsung's Galaxy Z Fold 3, which I have both models and have been using off and on for the past several weeks. And so the front screen, at least on the Z Fold 3, is smaller. It's more like a traditional smartphone screen like you would have on like a Galaxy S21. But when you open it and you have the foldable display inside, it becomes sort of like a miniature tablet. Now, bigger screens, obviously, with phablets like the Note and even the iPhone 13 Pro Max, these bigger displays that we've come to know and use, and some of us love on smartphones, they can only get so big before the phone itself is too big, and you end up carrying a device like an iPad mini around instead of a phone. So foldable phones solve that problem. I don't think I'd be willing to carry a phone that's bigger than iPhone 13 Pro Max at all. It would just be too big. So the obvious solution is fold that display in half, make it pocketable like the Z Fold 3 does, and you have a compromise. You're able to use a regular screen as well as a bigger tablet-like screen, which I think is a huge factor in what foldables offer.
I don't want to carry a phablet with me every day, but everyone is always on the go. They're always doing six different things at once. So, along with a bigger screen comes the ability to multitask, and a foldable device makes that significantly easier.
Yeah, absolutely. So to be clear, I wasn't sold on the original Fold. I think I even wrote an article for ZDNet after, 4 days before launch, they canceled the launch to go back to the drawing board because there was a bunch of issues. And I wrote an article for ZDNet telling Samsung, go back to the drawing board and let's just start this foldable conversation over when the tech is better. And it wasn't until the Z Fold 3 that I actually got my hands on a foldable display device. Now, I'd used the original Microsoft Duo. That's a confusing yet intriguing device because it has two separate displays. It doesn't have one display that folds in half. But the more I've used the Duo 2 and the Z Fold 3, the more multitasking has started to make sense, and my mind has sort of been retrained, right? Like when we use a smartphone now, we're used to seeing one app on the screen doing one thing at a time. Well, foldables, when you open them and you have this larger tablet like display, now you can put apps in split screen mode where you have an app on each side, or the Fold 3 allows you to have up to three apps, four apps on it, depending on how you do it. And you're able to say you have the password manager on one side and you're signing up for a new account, online account for, a banking service or whatever it is. On the other side, you're able to drag and drop all this information without having to switch between apps. The same goes for writing an email while referencing an Excel spreadsheet, or even looking at Amazon while comparing prices on, Target or whatever it is. There's plenty of use cases here for a larger display and using more than one app at a time. And here let's start to kind of dive into where Apple would make sense of all of this with multitasking. And that is, they already have the groundwork for this. If you open up a Z Fold 3, it's basically the same size as an iPad mini with iPad OS. So you have the split screen mode, you have slide over to use more than one app at a time. And I think the multitasking factor on iOS just isn't there on the iPhone. It's there on the iPad, but like we already said, no one wants to carry around a tablet or a phablet that's quite big with them at all times.
I can sit here and think about so many things where I have my phone and I have my laptop, and I'm researching something on my laptop and I'm writing it down on my phone, or vice versa. A foldable device would eliminate that. I could just do it all right here. So I think we all can agree having multiple choices makes innovation better. It keeps pricing in check, that kind of thing. If Apple jumped on the foldable bandwagon, it's Crazy to think about what kind of technology could come out of these two, Samsung and Apple, and who else, going head to head, competing with each other to make the best foldable device.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, look, Apple takes a lot of pride in not being the first to do a lot of things. There are some things like AirPods, for example. They kind of set the bar for completely wireless earbuds, and they'll make it an entrance when it's smart for them under their approach. Now, you look at like 5G technology. They waited a few years before putting that in iPhones. They obviously have to be experimenting with foldable displays and foldable technology in the lab right now, waiting for the time for the technology to be right. And Samsung has now had 3 generations of phones with foldable displays. So they have sort of refined the technology itself, but they're competing against themselves. And so there's nothing to push that bar a little bit further. And remember, a big gorilla in the room in all of this is Samsung makes a lot of display technology for Apple. So Apple waiting it out is effectively letting Samsung, go through the trials and tribulations of a new product that is really hard to make and then take advantage of it once it's there. So in my mind, here's what I see a foldable iPhone like is that the front of it, maybe the overall size is that of an iPhone 13 Pro or a 13 Pro Max. It's fairly large, but with an edge to edge display. Uh, One complaint I have about the Z Fold 3 right now is that the front screen is really cramped. There's huge bezels around every side of the display, and the keyboard is really cramped and compact to type on. And I have the choice of doing tasks on either the front display or opening it and using the bigger screen. But most of the time, at least right now, I'm finding myself opening the device just because the screen is cramped. So, edge to edge display, probably with Face ID to unlock the iPhone. And then when it folds open, you have essentially it converts to running iPad OS on the inside, where you have split screen apps with slide over. And if you don't know what that means, it means you pull an app off to the side of the screen and it kind of floats above what you're doing on the display, as well as Apple Pencil support. Again, we'll have Face ID on the inside, maybe Touch ID support in the side button or the power button, wherever Apple ends up putting that. But I could see a hybrid type device where when it's closed, it's a iPhone app, iPhone services, you open it up, it starts kind of converting to iPad OS, unless you're doing split screen apps and all that. It could get really complicated, but I see a hybrid device is my bigger point for that. With a display probably pretty close to what the iPad mini is. I think it would line up really well with, folding that in half and having a foldable iPhone.
I really think that Apple could make a foldable iPhone their own. They have the money, they have the research, they have the resources. They could do it. And like I said, some competition is better than no competition. Before we wrap this up, is there anything you'd like to add?
Yeah, I just want to, I guess, make it clear that to me, after having used these phones for the last few weeks, it's very obvious that foldable phones, or at least phones that are in the current rectangular shape, are are going to start to slowly fade away, right? And this technology is going to become, and this technology, I mean foldable displays or phones of different shapes and sizes that do different things, is going to be the future because they give users so many options. You can decide to use that front display for a text message or open it up and it becomes more of a tablet slash maybe laptop. Who knows how big these displays are going to get and these devices are going to get. So I think the main thing is Apple always tries to act like they are leading innovation and it was their idea and they're first to do everything when it comes to certain stuff, right? They may have been last to adopt 5G, but they did it with the best battery life or whatever it is. They always spin it, right? And I think we could see Apple doing that, but they're going to do it in an Apple way that's unique. And it's not just going to be, okay, here's a phone and it does this. Maybe there's some sort of accessory that goes with it. I don't know. The broader point here is I clearly feel like this is the future. Foldable phones are the future of mobile computing, whether that's just limited to phones or it's something that we'll see in laptops or tablet hybrid devices. That remains to be seen.
All right, thank you so much for this, Jason. As always, to see the written version of this interview, we have it linked right down below to Jason's article. Thank you so much for watching. Be sure to like this video, subscribe to our YouTube channel, and stick with ZDNet for all things tech.